I started getting double vision, headaches, and then one day I collapsed. I think the biggest opportunity is OnlyFans because it is so misunderstood.
Yeah.
Everyone assumes it's just adult content.
What brought about the decision to leave Gleam and to step away?
Just rushed into hospital, emergency brain surgery, kind of like woke up from that feeling like a different person.
Today, I think I might be the most excited that I've ever been before a podcast, because to me, I don't think that this agency would be here if it wasn't for people like you. So today we've got the godfather of influencer marketing. I know, it's so cheesy. Dom Samels. How you doing?
I'm all right, yeah. How are you? I forgot to keep forgetting this is being videoed as well, isn't it? Again, new to me. Thank you very much for your generous introduction.
No problem. I'm really excited to get into everything you're doing now, and obviously everything that you did with Gleam over the years. But I've been listening to a few podcasts of you recently that you've been on, and I've been reading stuff, and I just find it really interesting digging back to what people were doing before they started their quote unquote, big business.
Sure.
So talk to me about what you were doing before Gleam.
Oh, so I founded Gleam in February of 2010.
Yeah.
And I had a career before that in media, advertising, marketing.
Yeah.
The business that I was in before I started Gleam was a production company. We're making content for various platforms. So it's always been around kind of like media, entertainment, those sort of sectors.
Okay, amazing. And am I right in saying that it was a health scare that kind of gave you that push to kind of do something else?
Yeah. I mean, I had small kids, and I must have been, I might get the maths wrong in all of this, but I think I was around 35 years old or so. And I started getting headaches and double vision, and I was working like flat out for a production company, running a production company as a managing director.
Yeah.
And I started getting double vision, headaches, and then one day I collapsed and took it very seriously. Went to various opticians thinking my contact lens prescription was wrong, and that was what was making me have double vision and headaches. But then eventually a smart enough optician and ophthalmic specialist spotted that I had something wrong with my brain. And after a bit of a scary moment where I wondered if it would be terminal, so literal life flashing before eyes type thing, it's diagnosed as being a thing called hydrocephalus, water on the brain.
Right, okay.
Which is serious, but it's not kind of like immediately life-threatening. And I was, after another episode where I collapsed, rushed into hospital, emergency brain surgery, kind of like woke up from that feeling like a different person, because once someone's cracked your head open and been in there, it changes things.
Yeah.
And I had a big life think, basically, once I'd got my health back on track. Decided that I wanted more control over my diary was the impetus originally. And left the production company to start my own consultancy, basically, so that I could be in charge of my destiny, be on my own, and see more of my, wife and family and all that kind of thing, ironically. And off we went with Gleam Digital, a consultancy for brands who wanted to connect with online communities, basically, for mutual benefit. Right. That was our strapline. Connect with online communities for mutual benefit.
Okay. So how did that switch from doing that to managing the talent come about?
So during the connecting with online communities for mutual benefit phase of Gleam Digital, and I was lucky enough to have some really great clients in brands like Chanel and Alberto Culver, who at the time owned brands like Tresemme and VO5. So I was heading towards a beauty sector, beauty and fashion. And during that time, I met some online makeup artists who had a relatively small YouTube channel called Pixie Woo, where they were teaching people how to do makeup. And they were obviously passionate about makeup as well. And
how big was their following at the time?
About 15,000, 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, which actually at the time was pretty substantial. There weren't many people doing that kind of following on YouTube, but there weren't many people who were bothered with YouTube at that point.
It's all cat videos and
it was dogs who'd mastered the art of skateboarding, or people who had walked into glass doors not realizing they were there, that kind of stuff. Google had owned it for maybe a year or two, I think, at that point. Instagram didn't exist. Twitter was, gathering momentum. So it was fairly kind of early days. But when I met it was Sam and Nick Chapman, two makeup artist sisters running Pixie Woo, and it was on behalf of Chanel because I wanted to sample them some new Chanel products, see if they would like it and feature it on their video, as influencer marketing companies do today. These days. Not much has changed there. I met these guys and got on really well with them. What they did fascinated me, the way that their personalities were broadcast to an increasingly engaged and ever-growing audience really kind of like ignited something within me in terms of the potential of this. And it was at that moment that I kind of pivoted. I still paying the bills by doing community management for big beauty brands and helping them with their social media, which is incredibly basic at the time. If you can imagine brands like Tresemme and Chanel, now Tresemme is owned by Unilever, didn't have a social media agent. They weren't social media agencies, at that time. There definitely weren't influencer marketing companies. In fact, the word influencer didn't exist. So it was very basic. But it was at that point, though, when I met Sam and Nick, that I pivoted from wanting to advise the brands into wanting to advise the talent, because I could sense that sooner or later all the big, agency groups would be all over social media and be competing with me. And I'm a people fan, and I preferred thinking about the people, the talent, what they were capable of, and helping them reach their potential and earn a sustainable living and all that kind of stuff was much more exciting to me than just the brand side of things.
So had you at any point prior to that managed, you obviously had never managed talent before, and when you started signing those creators, were you personally managing them or did you have a team managing them?
No, I was personally managing them. I mean, like most startups, scrappy startups, it was just me with a laptop in a coffee shop. But I called us we.
I love that so much.
And when I took a phone call, I paced up and down the street pretending that I was just on my way in between meetings out of my amazing office, etc. But I wasn't. I had exposure to talent and managing talent in that the production company that I worked at before starting Gleam managed talent. We had an agent. We had a couple of agents work there, and they were presenters, sports presenters, TV presenters mainly. But no, social media talent didn't exist. So it was all new from there. But I think that not having experience as an agent or a manager specifically was key to establishing a different way of working with talent that, quite frankly, the talent needed, I think, at that point of the evolution.
Was anybody managing digital talent at that point in the UK?
No, not in Europe. I mean, I think there were a couple of people in the States. If you think about 2010, I might be wrong, and it's all getting a bit blurry now, but I think there were people like Tyler Oakley was around, and Grace Helbig, and they had good dedicated managers that got the space and were already onto it, and they're still in the business.
So Tyler's friends with Boyce, I think.
Right, okay,
so that's where that probably connection is.
So
because that's what interests me about the whole evolution of it. And I heard you on another podcast basically saying for the first 4 years, there was no competition. Like there was no other agency out there doing this. So was it a case of it was quite easy to sign talent because you were one of the only agencies doing it, or was it quite difficult because there weren't that many creators at the time?
Yeah, maybe a bit of both. So there wasn't any competition. Not that I ever thought about competition. I was just doing the job and growing the business. And the business grew very organically. It became busy, and I was fortunate enough to meet the people that I met along the way to help me and sign the talent that I signed, because they were friends of friends of friends of friends of friends. There wasn't kind of like what's our recruitment strategy and how are we going to find the best talent? And all that. It just didn't work like that back then, which is probably a good job because I wasn't that organised, It was very much a case of getting on a treadmill, running fast, and running faster as the treadmill sped up, basically.
Figuring it out as you go along.
Figuring it out as you go along. And I was lucky that I had that grace period when we were the only game in town, because we were so far ahead of the curve at that point, that we got to learn a huge amount and learn by mistakes as well, and also set the pace for certain things like value and workflow and policy and compliance and all of that kind of stuff. We kind of worked out as we went along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was it like when you started seeing that, I guess, more exponential growth, and you were having to hire people, and then you, I'm assuming, took a step back from managing the talent and you were now managing the team? Because I've gone through that in the past couple of years where I've started by managing the talent, and now I manage one creator, but I don't manage anybody else. My day-to-day now is managing the team, which is a very different concept. What was that like for you?
Yeah. So I guess I didn't actually ever stop managing talent.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And in some cases I was like on the road with talent right up to, the very late years of Gleam.
Okay.
Because, I mean, a number of reasons. One of the reasons was that that's what I loved and was good at, really. I'm not very good at very many things, but I kind of like fell into my stride on the talent management thing.
Yeah.
So I've always been a talent manager and would probably describe myself essentially as that now. And I was lucky enough to be able to recruit just the best team right from the beginning and have that grace period where I didn't have any competition and there wasn't, everybody hyping and pumping salaries through the roof all over the place and poaching people and all of that. The kind of, ecosystem it is now, I was able to find people who were super passionate about what was happening in the creator economy that was in its embryonic stages at that point, and were really into it. In fact, some of the first people that I employed were creators themselves, really, because they knew that there were very few people who knew what the hell I was talking about, and you couldn't really convince people, any adults really, and I wouldn't class myself as one, were just like, what are you doing?
Even now that's the case. I had Sedge Beswick from Scene Connects.
Right.
She was in the other day on the podcast, and I was saying, how do you because we both recently had children, both went to NCT classes, and we're sat in a circle, and everyone's saying, I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist, all this come from Cambridge, so everyone's incredibly intelligent. And then I go, I work in marketing, because I don't know how to describe it to people, because 9 times out of 10 when you describe it, they're like, what are you on about?
Yeah, I know.
So back then it must have been even more so like that.
It was, but it kind of fired me up as well, though. I loved it. I quite like sitting around very sensible, professional, middle-class dinner tables and telling people that I managed YouTubers and they would laugh. But obviously things evolve, but it is always very difficult to kind of try and describe it to people. So in those early days, I hired people that knew what they were talking about and knew the culture and the platforms, and they knew natively how to use the platforms like YouTube, and they were into it and they watched YouTubers because that was their chosen form of entertainment, or they created content for YouTube because that's what they were passionate about, rather than trying to find people, which is impossible at the time, but it's probably possible now, who just studied it at a university or whatever, or heard there's some money in it, so they're trying to make a career in it. And those people went on to, one of those people, for example, is Lucy Loveridge, who was...
I know her.
Yeah, she came on board very early, and I reached out to her and gave her a pair of Timberland boots, because I was running an outreach for Timberland, and she was a fashion blogger.
Yeah.
And then we met, and I hired her, and she came on board as a kind of like a marketing assistant, and then was totally into the talent space, became one of the first manager at Gleam and so on, and now she runs globally the social talent division at YMU.
Yeah, no, I've met Lucy and she's absolutely lovely. One of the things that it's interesting you talk about hiring people that were creators themselves, because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is the abundance of creators there are now. I think that I was doing a talk for another agency the other day, and they said, why have you been able to grow quickly the last couple of years? And I said, well, frankly, everybody was at home during lockdown trying to get on TikTok. And I'd say at least maybe 50% of our creators had never posted a piece of content until lockdown, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. What do you think of the environment and the market right now in terms of pretty much everybody wanting to be a content creator? Is it a good thing for the industry?
If I'm honest, no, I don't think it is. I think that one of the biggest barriers to success in this entire industry is the watering down of quality and the low bar there is for entry point. And then the lack of experience on the buy side of things in terms of what good looks like. So what you get is a kind of blurring of, I don't know, just a dumbing down of the quality in the entertainment business and then also the marketing business as well. And we move further and further towards commoditization of talent, which is actually what the one thing that I was desperately striving against with Gleam, which was always trying to represent the best in the marketplace. And it's not about volume, it's about quality and all of those kind of like benchmarks. And these days, of course, if you're an influencer marketer, then you're interested in much more the metrics and the commodity available through online platforms for your brand, which is fine. It's marketing channel, but I'm still passionate about the talent side of things. And that what started the whole thing was that unique relationship between a creator and their audience without any gatekeeper in between. That's what started everything. Pixie Woo able to create makeup looks that their audience wanted to see, and their audience would tell them in the comments below the video what they wanted to see next, and then Sam and It would create it. Simple. Now, do you know the factors involved in online content creation and influencers? It's like a multi-billion-dollar business. I would say that there are editors, gatekeepers involved now, and they're the brands and the platforms. Mostly the brands, because it's the brands that are driving the platforms to heavily censor the content on the platforms in order to drive the advertisers to the platforms and feel safe,
Did that dilution, you talk about the dilution of the pool, really, as more people want to become content creators. As you grew as a company and as more competitors came into the market, did you feel any pressure to build the volume within your roster to try and continue competing against your competitors? Or was it always just, no, we don't care how small the roster is or how big it is, we're just going to focus on quality the whole time?
Yeah. It was basically that. We never succumbed to wanting to, right, let's sign 10 people a week or 10 people a month or 20 people, whatever. It was just about finding the right people. And we scoured the internet for the right people, and occasionally they would pop and we would sit and talk about it on a almost daily basis as a team and decide on the right people to sign. But it wasn't, and even to this day, I think you look at Gleam's roster, it's not, hundreds and hundreds of talent.
No, it's quality over quantity.
And the really good talent management outfits, if they are thinking about talent management, they curate their roster very carefully. And there are a number of factors that go into what makes a creator really interesting as a growth project, as well as ongoing commercial asset.
I asked that question quite in a loaded way because now there's so much competition in terms of talent management agencies. Every week there's a new agency. There's somebody's left one agency, started their own agency. And it is a lot of competition. And I think that I know personally, and being quite transparent here, I've felt quite a lot of pressure to make sure that the roster grows to be able to compete. And I do think at the beginning we've really focused on quality over quantity. And I think maybe we got a bit lost for a few months, 6 months or so. And now doing exactly what you're saying, focus on the creators. Doesn't matter how many you've got. It's about the talent you're working with, but not just the roster, the talent internally in terms of your team. is so important, and what you're saying about hiring the best people is so key.
Yeah, success is only available to those that have great teams on both sides of the operation, basically. It's a cheesy old phrase you hear: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I would encourage anybody that's coming into talent management in the digital space, or are already in it, like yourself. I'd focus on quality, because I still think when it comes to talent, quality will out. And if you're looking at kind of fending off the competition, you've only got to compete with people with the ability to be able to attract the best talent at whatever stage of their career they're at. Now, if you've got an agency that has 500 talent managed by 4 people, then you're not going to have got the best work out of your team in terms of taking advantage of the opportunities for the talent. You're probably going to have the talent a bit underwhelmed by the prospects and attention and encouragement and development they're getting from your team, because there's so many people, and that will curtail your ability to be able to attract that best talent. So it's better to have the best talent making the most amount of money over the longest period of time, rather than just getting loads of mediocre people.
No, I completely agree. And I think one of the big key things to our business model has always been keep our rosters really small. Because I was talking to you about just before the podcast about when we started as a brand agency, we'd work with loads of different talent agencies. And the number one thing that used to frustrate us when we worked with these talent agencies was when the talent manager had too many creators on their roster, because you just can't give them the attention that they need. And it still happens so much with agencies that are growing, and they sign 20 creators to one manager and they think that's going to work. Because something that I've heard you talk about, which really resonates with me, is that you started Gleam with the intention of creating careers for these people. It wasn't just a transaction. It was trying to show them this can be a career for you. And I don't think you can do that if you manage too many people, because you just don't have enough hours in the day, or the bandwidth to do it.
Yeah, totally. And it's not going to bring the best out of your team as well, your internal team, because they'll feel frustrated by not being able to spend the hours developing the key talent. If you think about how you scale a talent, then it's about there's infinite scale available to the right talent, because you have channels to reach an infinite amount of people, really. So you just need to find the right people to be able to offer that scale to, rather than inverting that triangle and trying to go the other way. So just starting with loads of people and just trying to get a medium to small amount of longevity and commercial success out of those loads of people. It doesn't work that way. So the numbers of talent on the roster really doesn't matter. It's about having the right talent.
The right talent. So what brought about the decision to leave Gleam and to step away?
Well, so there was a crucial moment in the evolution of Gleam, which was around 2017, 16, 17, that the whole influencer management and marketing business was exploding. Everybody wanted in. I had an email inbox full of offers for acquisition, all kind partnership, all kinds of stuff. I was being courted by all the big talent companies of the world, including WME, CAA, UTA, etc., because everybody wanted in on the space. And I realized that if we were to survive and carry on delivering the kind of success we had already delivered for our roster in the future, then we had to muscle up quick. So we had to go global very quickly, because it was a global audience and we should be a global business. And we had kind of like slowly and tentatively and like painfully expanded to LA and Sydney from London. So we had 3 offices in 2017, but we wanted to be in the Middle East. We wanted to be all over the world, basically, because that was the opportunity. So I started looking around at potential partners, collaborators, investors, and we through a, I won't bore you with the process, but through a process we found a big Japanese advertising conglomerate to partner with, and went down that way. Did the deal for investment. The company grew. We started trying to integrate, and it got to the point when, at the end of 2020, that I realized that after the earn out and all the M&A had gone through and all that kind of thing, that this romantic notion I had of always sitting at the helm of Gleam and stewarding it through its future forever. But when I had less control over the business, would have been a great thing. But I didn't want to get in Gleam's way anymore, because it was a different, bigger company with the different prospects ahead of it as part of this big group.
Yeah.
And they go on to be hugely successful, and I really admire the work that they're doing with Gleam now. But I felt like it was time for a new chapter for me and for Gleam. So that was basically the decision.
And I want to get on to that next chapter in a second, but one of the things that I'm really interested to talk about is, how does it feel to have stepped away from something that you built, like you said, from the coffee shop on your laptop, and now watch it being run by somebody else without you there? Like, what's that like?
What are you talking about, like now,
Yeah.
for example? I'm very proud that something can be created like that and then can have a life of its own.
Yeah.
It's really cliched, but you've got kids, yeah?
Yeah, one kid.
One kid. So one day they grow up and they have their own life, their own personality, their own prospects, their own future. And they will one day leave home and off they go. And I kind of feel that way a bit about Gleam.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a journey. It's a very different business now than it was then, or even than it was 4 years ago versus 10 years ago, and so on. It evolves all the time. And I'm very cognizant of the fact that kind of like, it's not about me. I mean, in fact, the beautiful thing about Gleam was it was not about me, the founder. It's not a business that needed me per se. It was the sum of its parts, and those parts being the brilliant team that was at Gleam, and some of them are still there.
Yeah.
The brilliant talent on Gleam's roster, the brilliant partners that Gleam had, and that includes publishing companies, TV companies, brands, you name it. And that's what causes Gleam to grow. So there was a really clear point at which I could step back and watch it
flourish,
sail off and flourish. Yeah, absolutely.
How long did it take? Because I find this interesting as well. When people do sell businesses and they walk away, how long did it take for you to get back into the game, if you will, like to start to do other things? Because I know you're doing other things now. Did you have a period of like, I'm just going to rest and have 6 months off? Or did you just get straight back into it? Like, what was the process there?
Yeah,
like?
I thought, to be honest with you, in the last kind of like, I don't know, 6 months or so, I thought I'm probably going to just sit on a beach or play golf or something like that. But then directly after exiting Gleam, it didn't take long at all. We were in lockdown at the time as well, remember? It didn't take long for me to realise that it would send me insane to stop working. So I just carried on. I didn't have a day rest, really.
Really?
No.
Straight into it?
Straight into other things, absolutely.
And what are those other things for anyone that hasn't seen what you're doing now?
So a number of things.
Yeah.
I'm still fascinated by the creator economy. I think that there is a really interesting future for the subscription platforms within the creator economy. And I co-founded a business a year ago or so, with a friend of mine who I met, funnily enough, on one of the very first ever Gleam shoots.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when we were working for Tresemme, the hair brand, and she was a hair model on the shoot.
Wow.
And we stayed in touch as mates throughout a decade, and it wasn't until quite recently that she shared with me her story of how she had health challenges and had to look for other income other than being a commercial model and hair model, etc. And she launched a channel on OnlyFans and had built a very stable, solid, growing, valuable income on OnlyFans. Not doing adult content, I might add, before you assume that.
Which is what your brain originally goes to.
Totally. And she it triggered something in me in that, perhaps this is kind of like YouTube of 2010, whereby there are much smaller audiences, but they're very, very engaged, rather than just enormous audiences that are 0.2% engaged. Sophie had started this OnlyFans channel, made a decent amount of money out of hundreds, if not maybe, very few thousand subscribers, rather than hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers. And so together we founded a business called the Glow Project, which helps support creators who want to forge a career on subscription platforms, mainly OnlyFans.
Okay.
But they want to do it in a non-explicit way. So it's a much broader creator roster than just being an adult creator. Not that we don't judge the adult creators either on OnlyFans, and think actually it's a safe environment for those types of creators to create, and much more rewarding, and kind of like they hold on to their own rights and all of that kind of stuff. But we want to try and be a bit more mainstream about it and encourage PTs, chefs, all kinds of experts, comedians to focus on OnlyFans as a platform to find smaller, more niche audiences, but much more engaged, valuable audiences than you might do on Instagram.
It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I'm a big rugby fan. So it's like a rugby-based podcast. And one of the guys, James Haskell, who used to play for England, he's a DJ as well. And he's on OnlyFans, and he's doing DJ content. And he was saying, I earned £1,500 last week for just putting my DJ stuff on this platform. And everybody's, saying, oh my God, you're on OnlyFans. What are you posting, kind of thing. But it's interesting, the subscription model. Are you trying it on other platforms that are not OnlyFans?
Yeah, I mean, to be frank, there's Twitch as a subscription platform. Patreon is quite a big, successful subscription platform as well. And then there's OnlyFans. And there are hundreds of others as well. Cameo. Think about the ways that you can monetize premium content, premium exclusive content, be that a happy birthday wish from a celebrity on Cameo versus an exclusive workout or yoga flow from someone on OnlyFans or Patreon, or extra bits to a podcast that on Patreon, etc. But at this point, I think the biggest opportunity is OnlyFans because it is so misunderstood. Yeah, everyone assumes it's just adult content. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of adult content on there, but it is essentially a social media platform that has a subscription element to it. So you can choose to hide your content behind a paywall and then have your subscribers subscribe for exclusive content. That's at its roots. That's what it is. What content you create on there is up to you. As long as you're not doing anything illegal and you're not hurting anybody, then it's fine. And I kind of think that's the spirit with which the whole creator economy started back in 2010, was that suddenly it's up to us what we create and say and do on our entertainment platforms, and without anyone judging or censoring it. But now, of course, it's highly judged and censored because
massively
of the brand money.
Censored on the major platforms, the YouTubes of the world, pulling down videos left, right, and centre.
And well, all of them really. But OnlyFans is not like that. And I say mainly OnlyFans because OnlyFans is hundreds, and I won't say the exact numbers because they're not publicly available, I don't think, so I don't know them exactly, but it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of monthly uniques on OnlyFans, and multi-millions of creators on OnlyFans, versus their nearest rival that is in the kind of like single millions of monthly uniques, rather than hundreds of millions of monthly uniques, They're huge. What
I found interesting about what you're doing now is I've seen a lot of the OnlyFans TV stuff where they're starting to, create content. So talk to me about how that system is working at the moment.
Yeah, so OnlyFans has a streaming app on Android and iOS called OFTV, OnlyFans TV, but it's known as OFTV. And it is essentially the same way you would have YouTube or Hulu or ITV Player or whatever on your phone. You can have OnlyFans TV on your phone. And the content on that platform is all safe for work, 100% PG-13 content. Okay. But it's content that is populated by OnlyFans creators. So if an OnlyFans creator's into cooking and they've got a cooking show on OFTV, or they're a fitness professional and they'll take you through workouts on OFTV, like YouTube, but they also have their own OnlyFans channel where you can really get to know that creator, in messages, one-on-one and all that kind of stuff. And recently, the Glow Project has been commissioned over the last couple of years to produce original content for OFTV. So we've just launched season 2 of our farm challenge show, Model Farmers. Season 1 we did on a dairy farm in Jersey. One of our creators at the Glow Project is a farmer, 4th generation farmer.
Okay.
And she has an OnlyFans channel where she talks about farming, and there's lots of cow content on there. Everybody's fully clothed. There's no, it's a farm channel.
Yeah.
She's very successful. So we pitched a show to OnlyFans whereby we took 6 OnlyFans creators, divided them into 2 teams of 3, and they were pitted against each other on the farm for a week, doing farm tasks.
Yeah.
And at the end of the week, one of the teams will be crowned model farmers. It was very successful. It's a great show. It's available on the platform. And we've just shot season 2 on a sheep station in the Australian outback.
Wow.
Again, 2 teams of OnlyFans creators competing against each other on this sheep station in the outback. It makes for great viewing, epic scenery and like environment. It's a very tough shoot. It's just launched on the platform.
You just mentioned how it's been very successful. It's obviously been quite successful if you've got a season 2. Maybe you can't talk about numbers specifically, but how successful are we talking compared to, say, the viewership you might get on a big YouTube channel or the viewership you might get on a traditional TV channel?
So I don't know.
Yeah.
The success for us is gauged by how positively the creators find the experience, the show. We're wanting to introduce the creators to bigger audiences all the time. So it's how the show manages to do that. And OnlyFans also is a creator-first platform.
Yeah.
And they are only wanting their creators to grow and succeed and establish themselves as their own independent businesses. So OnlyFans will promote the show also. And we, that's our success gauge, I guess, is how successful the creators are off the back of the show.
Yeah.
We don't know metrics in terms of people on the app, views on the app, all that kind of stuff, because it's not shared on the OFTV app.
Right, okay.
So there's that. And I sit on various advisory boards for amazing companies like Be Creator now, who run shows like the Be Creator Travel Show. They're doing a Be Creator Wellness show also. And probably their kind of flagship event is the Be Creator Awards, which used to be called the Blogosphere Awards.
Yes,
So that's the kind of like, I want it to, and it's heading that way very fast, be the Oscars for the creator economy. A night when creators can really be recognized for the amazing things that they've done throughout the year. And Alice, who runs that business, is incredibly passionate about it as well. So I'm really interested to see where those guys go. I also sit on the board at the Digital Creator Association, which is a trade body founded by my old COO at Gleam, Phil Hughes, to basically protect the rights and interests of creators rather than any other kind of like influence in the creator economy. It's just about the creators. So representing their voice to government, all other kind of like compliance bodies, etc., and just be there for creators that might not have access to those types of resources, like lawyers, advice, experience. The board's made up of some incredible creators and execs from around the creator economy as well. I also advise a business called Talent Village, which is a piece of very smart creator tech, I guess, manager and creator tech. Check it out. I've made small investments, and I'm an angel investor in various other brands, like a zero alcohol beer called Freestar, and a smart supplement brand called Heights, bits and bobs, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I know them.
Yeah.
Is it Stephen Bartlett?
So Stephen Bartlett's a customer, I believe, was when I first invested in the guys.
I think I saw it on his podcast.
Yeah, it has been. It has been on Stephen's podcast. But they're pioneering the category of brain care, basically. And the founder, Dan Murray-Salter, thinks that we spend too much attention thinking about hair care and skin care and all of that kind of stuff. Why aren't people focusing on one of the most, probably the most important organ of their body, the brain? And founded, first of all, it was a smart supplement that catered to brain health, and now they've just launched a probiotic linking gut health to brain health, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you've obviously spoke about subscription-based models, and you can see it. It's coming into YouTube, it's coming into Instagram, it's coming into podcasts. Pay £5 a month for exclusive content, things of that nature. Where else is I can't have you sat here and not tell me where you think the future of this industry is going. What is the future of the creator economy, do you think? And where are we heading?
Well, I think we are about to move into a period of consolidation. I think there's some amazing businesses in the space now, and we're really beginning to get a taste of where the quality is.
Yeah.
And I think it's time for consolidation there to deliver some really amazing content, incredible brand deals, find some amazing talent and scale them properly so that they achieve real, whole world success. I think that there will be a greater onus on premium content, so subscription content. So I think platforms like OnlyFans will flourish, and lots of platforms that come after OnlyFans as well.
Yeah.
I think we'll see the world kind of view platforms like OnlyFans with a slightly more open-minded gaze. The exec team at OnlyFans is incredibly ambitious for it. It's now an all-female leadership team at OnlyFans. I don't know if anyone realised that as well. Young female leadership team led by Amy Gann, who's the CEO there, and they're doing great things. Watch this space. I think that we'll see more super talent emerge who become brands in their own right. More Mr. Beasts, more Primes, more, all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I think we'll also see it, whilst the real premium rises to the top, we'll also see a proliferation of the mediocre also. So if you think about stage one being the pioneers of the space, you were involved in those very early stages by the sounds of things as well, 2010-ish. Fast forward to the middle, where everybody wants a YouTube channel, wants to be an influencer, and you see the explosion in the invention of the word influencer in 2014 and everything that comes with it, the billions of dollars and the hundreds of millions of creators that flood the scene. And I think now there'll be a next stage, which will be possibly generative AI driven. And we'll see proliferation of bot-driven social media, AI-driven social media, creators who are digitally created people rather than actual people. And I think a realization as well that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, oh my God, they're fake. Why do you follow they're fake? Like, people really like Darth Vader in Star Wars or anime characters or any other kind of like fantasy character, Mickey Mouse, that hundreds of millions of people would enjoy, follow, and be interested in. I think we'll see the same thing in social media. That's my crystal ball gaze.
Let's see what happens. My final question for you is, what's your biggest lesson? I'm speaking at my old school's leavers event in a couple of weeks' time, and I need to give them some advice. What's your biggest advice for a young person coming out of school now that maybe doesn't have any kind of direction? After everything you've learned from starting a business to working in businesses and now after business, what is your advice for life, and what's your biggest lesson?
Phew.
Big question.
Yeah. Is this for what, young entrepreneurs or creators or?
Yeah, anybody that you think that you could give some advice to that might benefit from it.
I think generally it sounds super cheesy, but be true to yourself. I think there's too many external influences at the moment telling people how they should be acting and achieving and succeeding in the way that I have done it, in terms of a TikTok video or a Instagram feed that just makes it look super easy. But I know that there is an enormous amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into any venture, be you a talent or an entrepreneur like yourself. And it's easy to be dissuaded or kind of like, I don't know, intimidated by what you see other people thinking that you should do or be like or have achieved by this stage. Try and separate yourself from all of that noise. And if you are passionate and driven and focused on something, then just pursue it with your own set of values intact. Don't get persuaded to be doing something that you don't believe in or would agree with. And you will, with enormous amounts of hard work, succeed. Yeah.
Perfect. Dom, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.